Welcome, everyone. I'm Allison Damast from Poets and Quants. Thank you for tuning in to Poets and Quants online MBA panel, the online MBA experience. Today, we're joined by CMU Tepper, Michigan Ross, and BU Questrom. Thank you all for watching and joining us, and thank you to our guests for being here today. To begin, let's start by getting to know our panelists. If you please, could you each introduce yourself, the school you represent, and your role there? And plus, if you could say the best part of your job in one word, that would be great. Let's start with Sarah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah McIntosh, and I am representing Michigan Ross here today. I am the Director of Admissions for our part-time programs here, the online MBA, which we'll talk about today, and our weekend MBA program. I would say the best part of my job in one word, I would say would be growth, meaning that I can see, how our students grow through the program and see, where they grow to after completing the program.
Great. JR?
Hey everyone, J.R. McGrath. I'm the Executive Director of Master's Admissions here at the Tepper School of Business at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. One word, I would say transformation. I always love, getting to know someone early in the process and then watching them grow throughout the program and who they become after. So it's always just a rewarding part of the job.
Great. Okay, and Erin?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to Poets and Quants for having us. My name is Erin Butt. I am the Associate Director for Online MBA Admissions here at Boston University's Questrom School of Business. I would say my favorite part of the job, I would say in one word, would be community, both on the back end in working with my colleagues on this incredible program, but also seeing the community that develops within the online MBA program, seeing all the students across the world come together, get to know each other, solve these real world challenges, and then many of whom come to Boston, Massachusetts to celebrate and participate in commencement together. So the community, I think, is a really special part of the online MBA program.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, well, now I'd like to have you guys give us kind of a general introduction about your school, its mission and values, its location, its reputation. Erin, do you want to continue? And then we can move on to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Questrom School of Business, Boston University, we are located obviously in Boston, Massachusetts, right in the heart of the city. The Questrom School of Business, our mission statement is creating value for the world. So we kind of think of that in a couple of different ways. It can be creating value for yourself through that growth, like Sarah and JR were talking about. Creating value for your business or organization that you work for. And then, of course, creating value for the world around you, your immediate community, communities all across the globe. So I think we really put that into practice and action through a focus on innovation and experiential learning. And that, of course, translates to the online MBA as well at Questrom. That is such an innovative program by nature. We really built it from the ground up. The curriculum itself is modular in nature rather than sort of a traditional lockstep program where you take subjects class by class. We platform the entire program in-house. And I think that is sort of what we were trying to do is innovate in the market, disrupt the market. So that is something that I think is a cornerstone, not only of the online MBA, but of Questrom as a whole.
Great. JR? Can you share your thoughts on this?
Thanks. So Tepper School of Business, we're located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So we are a campus that is integrated into the city, which for me, like I've worked at a lot of different universities, and that's always like an interesting piece of kind of being around that, we'll say like the vibrant part rather than maybe just off on its own. In terms of mission, I think where we really kind of stand apart is that we want to create leaders who are able to be data informed and feel comfortable in that data rich environment. As we all know, going forward in all these different types of roles, no matter what type of functional part of business you're in, your environment will be data informed. We do have that intersection of business and technology. I think everyone right now, I think AI is that new buzzword that everyone is talking about. AI was actually developed at Carnegie Mellon as a whole, and we really put our students into the intersection of all the schools at Carnegie Mellon to really give you that opportunity to be in that environment to take all those new technologies being developed and integrate that into how you do your work. And lastly, you know, I said leadership. What was really interesting for us is that we always do research on what is going to make your career most impactful. And we go out to all those different stakeholders and ask that question over and over again of who is making that biggest impact. And consistently, it comes back with those that can solve complicated problems, but in particular, communicate that complicated solution out to many different stakeholders and get others to buy into that vision that you want to have everyone go in. So that leadership and communication piece is key. So focusing on those 3 different areas to make sure that you are that future ready business leader who's going to be able to make that impact.
Right, right. I can see how that's really important. Thanks for sharing that. And Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, so the University of Michigan, so the Ross School of Business, is located here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. At its core, Ross's mission is to develop, empower leaders to make a positive difference in the world through business, right? So we know that business are a driving force in the world here today, and knowing that, you know, making that positive difference, you know, while working towards the business goals is really important. We at Ross, regardless of which program, whether it's an MBA or even a BBA program, right, we're developing those leaders to be able to connect and collaborate with different people on different teams or people on teams that they're managing. We want to make sure that our students are leaving here with those skills to be able to continue to learn and grow after they graduate. Ross, kind of the MBA, is kind of known as a very collaborative MBA. So we understand that there's a lot of learning that can happen in that collaborative environment. Want to make sure that everyone's learning from different backgrounds, from each other, you know, with different students in the classes, and making sure that they're connecting with each other to build that network that's really important within an MBA. You know, even in the virtual setting, important to have that network even after graduating.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. JR, why don't you share with us a bit about your online program options along with learning, such as synchronous versus asynchronous, kind of curriculums, clubs, culture, externship opportunities that students can expect to come to your program?
Sure. And I'll try to make that brief because obviously big question. There's so many aspects there.
Yes.
So I'll focus a little bit more on our approach. We got into the online space over a decade ago for a lot of different reasons, but in particular, the thing that we have held true the entire time is that how do we put our Tepper MBA out there into a more flexible format, but not really take anything away from that development or the program that everyone has come to know for the Tepper School. And what that means is that we actually have the same credit hours across all of our MBA programs. So you're going to be able to take the same core as our other MBAs. You're going to be able to take the same number of electives as our other MBAs, as well as capstones. We have one set of our tenure track faculty. When you're in our online program, there isn't going to be someone else that has created the class and then teaching it. You're going to have the same professors across the board. And we hold that same model with our executive leadership coaches, with our career management staff. When you're an MBA student here at Tepper, you're an MBA student, and everything that we have that we offer as a school, all of our MBA students are eligible to participate in. When we look at our model, when you talk about synchronous and asynchronous, our model is to kick off all of our core classes with a really robust session with our faculty. So we either do that while everyone's in person. We have these things called access weekends, which I can go into more later. But you're going to be there in person with all of your classmates, and you're going to have 2 days of class with those professors to really get that foundation for the class. And then you go into that model of live class sessions twice a week, as well as there is some async material that you're going to be able to watch on demand to be able to get ready for those live sessions. When we're not in person, we do that in a virtual format as well. So really trying to ensure we're setting everybody up with a great foundation to continue that learning in the online environment. And I'll say one other thing to kind of maybe like wrap this up, because you talked about clubs, you talked about externships, culture, and everything. So I mentioned this just briefly, but When we say that you are eligible for all things that we offer to our MBA students, our online students are also eligible to look for internships, and we support them in that journey as well. Because we know now that online students want to have that flexibility, but they still want to have all those career opportunities. And there are some industries that hire at a much higher rate out of internships than they do just on demand. So if our students want that option, they have that. Our student clubs have part-time MBA officer positions, so we're trying to include them as much as we can. Some clubs go more towards that, like our career focus clubs definitely have those roles. Sometimes those special interest clubs that maybe are a little bit more in person, we have a golf club, we have, things like that as well. A little bit harder to have our online students part of that because a lot of that is going to be local things that they can go for. But we're trying to incorporate our online students into everything that we do here at the Tepper School.
Great, great. Yeah, it sounds like they really have a lot of chances to be involved in a meaningful way. Erin, why don't you share your thoughts on this topic? And
yeah, absolutely. So the online MBA at Questrom is a little bit different in the sense that we have really designed this program from the ground up, specifically with a sort of mid-career professional in mind. So we've kind of created this entirely different ecosystem around the mid-career professional learner, oftentimes an adult learner, though that's not exclusive, of course. So our curriculum, as I mentioned earlier, is modular in nature. Rather than taking each individual sort of subject within business curriculum, like finance, accounting, marketing, operations, and learning in sort of a siloed manner, we created 6 sort of interdisciplinary modules that are all centered around key themes and issues in business. So, for example, we have one around fostering an innovative mindset. We have one about creating value for business and society, so that links in with our mission statement. We have one about managing performance with data that's going to focus a lot on finance, accounting, data analytics, and things like that. So we wanted to deliver this curriculum in the same way that our students are learning and practicing business in everyday life, which is in an interdisciplinary manner. So all students will take the same 6 modules. It's going to bring in elements of that core coursework, as well as elements of elective coursework that you would expect to get from any reputable MBA. You have anywhere from 2 to 6 years to complete the program, so it's a very flexible timeline. We have many students who will take leaves of absence if they need to for personal or professional reasons. We want this to be a flexible and convenient program that still maintains that quality that you would expect from a Questrom MBA. And so what that means is that we didn't water down our curriculum or the program. You are being taught by the exact same faculty that teach in our residential MBA programs. You receive the exact same degree certificate that our residential MBA students receive. And you have plenty of opportunities to engage in the Questrom community, and more specifically, the online MBA community. So we have clubs and organizations at Questrom that a lot of our residential students do participate in. For OMBA, we have what are called affinity groups, and it's very similar to what a club or organization at a university might look like. But these affinity groups are really just mainly for the OMBA community specifically. And those are going to be identity-based. They're going to be professionally based, for different business sectors or functional areas of business. And then we do have a lot that are geographically based as well. So pretty much in any major metro area in the US and even internationally abroad, we have quite a few affinity groups. So students will get together and they will host professional development events, sort of speed networking events, and even just sort of fun social hangouts together. So it's a really wonderful way to immerse yourself in the OMBA community. You sort of get out of it what you put into it. You can be as involved or not if you would like. And last thing I want to note, just going back to the curriculum, it's sort of a mix with the Tepper program of synchronous and asynchronous learning. So you're going to have 1 live session per week. There'll be about half throughout the semester that you'll be required to attend, but we do find that most students go every week just because they find it to be so rewarding. It's a great chance to get to interact face-to-face with our faculty and teaching team, our learning facilitators who help to provide additional academic support for students, and of course, all your peers that are in your live session with you. And then the other sort of remaining chunk of the coursework you'll be expected to complete will be both asynchronous and then in small teams as well. In our program, students complete 1 capstone per module in small teams of about 4 to 6 students. So we do put a very heavy emphasis on teaming in our program. It's not going to be an isolated online MBA experience. You're going to constantly be collaborating because, again, in business, you're pretty much never going to be working on your own. And we want to make sure that our students are walking away with those sort of soft skills as well, and ability to be a good team player, a good leader, a good collaborator, because I think that's essential in today's business world to be successful. So that's sort of an overview of the academic and extracurricular experience for the online MBA at Questrom.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks for sharing that. Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, sure. So the Ross Online MBA is our most flexible MBA program here. On average, it takes about 2.5 to 3 years to complete the program, but students have up to 5 years to complete the degree. It is a self-paced program, so if students need to take a semester or 2 off at a time, they're able to. You're right, we want this to fit into their schedule, so maybe one part of the year is really busy for them at work, and then they need to maybe scale back their schoolwork. They can do that. Maybe take, like I said, a semester or 2 off, or only take 1 course instead of 2. That's up to them. All students complete 57 credits in our program, which is the same for all of our other MBA programs. These credits consist of core classes that everyone takes. So those kind of like business fundamentals, right? The accounting, finance, strategy, marketing, etc. Then they take their elective courses, which is where our students have a little bit of choice in what they want to learn. Maybe they're going towards topics that they kind of just want to dive deeper into, or they are going to topics that they've never learned before and they want to learn something completely new. Then our students complete 3 residencies courses. These are times where our students will come on campus here or at an international location for intensive programming. So with those residencies, there's work outside of those in-person component, but during those residencies, it's jam-packed, a lot of class time, a lot of group work, different networking opportunities. And then the final part of those 57 credits is the MAP program, which stands for Multidisciplinary Action Project. This is where our students will work on a project for a real company. So instead of going out and hiring some consulting company, the companies will bring their projects here, and our students will work on them for a full semester. So it's a very intensive program, using everything that they've learned within their other courses to this project. With the classes, the majority of the classes are in 7-week half terms, which consist of asynchronous and synchronous learning. So asynchronous learning that they do on their own time. So reading, modules, simulations, group work, things like that. And then the synchronous sessions, which are times where our students get online with their faculty member and fellow classmates for a live class discussion. So it is, we have 2 studios here, which are very high tech, have some of the newest tech out there to be able to really make our students feel like they're here kind of in person. Our faculty go through hours of training for these different synchronous sessions, and they, like I said, make it seem like they're in person. They'll cold call them, they'll put them into groups. It's a very interactive experience. As I mentioned, those 3 residencies, again, there's that asynchronous, synchronous work, and then the on-campus portion or at the international location. With the residencies, our students say that it's kind of like a mini reunion, because that culture of Ross, of having that community, they already did that. Where do you work? Where do you live? Kind of in the synchronous, or excuse me, in the asynchronous and synchronous portions, and they can really dive deep into those connections when they're here on campus or international location for those residencies. With the program, just in general, right, students gain a real world experience with our action-based learning. So our faculty teach in the sense of, yes, you need to know, keywords and definitions, but how you apply those is what's really important. And they do that through cases, through MAP, again, those residencies. With different clubs, institutes, and centers, our online students have access, just like our in-person programs. And what's really great is with the clubs and institutes, that's with all MBA students. So they're able to build that network, not only with online students, but also students from our other MBA programs. And then also kind of last, we do have we have like an online MBA council. So there's different team members on there that these are students that are volunteering to work for our students, meaning that they are doing social events. They are, connecting people in different areas of the country, even the world, making sure that, our students are interacting with things going on campus. They really do a really great job at making sure that our online students feel like they're, part of the full Ross community.
That's great. That's a nice add bonus for them, I imagine. All right. Well, Sarah, while I'm talking to you, we're going to move on to diversity. Why do you think diversity matters in graduate business education, regardless of your background? And what do you think some of the benefits are of studying in a diverse cohort of students?
Yeah. So here at Ross, we value having a variety of student in the program. So whether that be personal background, or is it education, industry experience, function, we want a variety of student in the program, because our students, obviously, they learn a lot from the faculty, but they can also learn from each other. So we try to bring in different thought into the program, so each student can share about their different experiences that they've had. Because if everyone had the same background or the same, industry experience, no one would learn from each other, right? Everyone would just know the same thing. So we want students to make sure that they're hearing new thought or seeing a different way to think about something, or a different type of project that maybe they'll see later. Because that diversity, having that in the program, is really important to be able to see that kind of through, and again, seeing how different people think. You don't want people that think the same as you, because then you're not growing, you're just staying the same. So we definitely want a variety of student in the program.
Sure. Great. Erin, how about you? And tackle
Yeah,
the
I think
diversity.
it's very much the same at Questrom. In the online MBA program, we greatly value diversity. I know I said before, we do have sort of a typical class profile for our student. Our students tend to be quite experienced, roughly averaging around 12 to 13 years of experience. But again, that is not exclusive. We have had students as young as in their early 20s and as old as in their late 70s. So it is a very broad spectrum when it comes to what an online MBA student might look like. But we're looking at the quality and quantity of your experience. We're looking at the industry and functional area that you're working in. We're looking at where are you from? What sort of value do you bring? And I think what's so special about the online MBA at Questrom is that it spans so many different types of people. And I think, as Sarah said, you're not going to grow if you're not getting different types of perspectives. I think the way that a team, for example, in OMBA might approach an issue, with a student from the healthcare industry versus someone who works in fintech versus someone who works at a nonprofit, they're all going to approach the same problem in a different way. And I think that's going to generate more solutions. It's going to generate more of that innovative thinking. And that value just really can't be overstated enough. So when we're building a class of online MBA students, and when we're thinking about who's going to be in that program, we're always keeping that in mind, right? Of how many different perspectives can we bring in, and what kind of value is that going to generate, not just for our program and for the world, but also for the students in the program. So I think when evaluating different programs, as a prospective student, looking at the class profile is really key, and looking at those different facets of diversity and what that truly means for your experience. It's worthwhile doing a dive into that, because if you're just sort of in this siloed experience where everyone is in an echo chamber and just saying the same thing over and over, there isn't as much value in that, I would say, as a program where you're going to learn how to think differently and see the world maybe differently.
Yeah, that's an important point. Thank you for sharing that. JR, how about you?
Yeah, so I'll echo in a way like what the other two said, and I'll add on. So on the learning side, beyond obviously having that diverse cohort that you're going to be learning from as well, we actually created a new position last year. It's an Associate Dean of DE&IB, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. And that person not only works with our student communities, but also with our faculty to ensure that they're putting different scenarios, case studies, things into the classroom that really like pushes that learning into beyond, I guess, what the traditional MBA classroom has been. The thing that I think about most whenever I was hearing this question, though, was about preparing you for the environments that you're going to be in later. Most post-MBA roles are going to be on very diverse teams or global teams, and really being able to work with many different types of people, whether they're on your specific team, whether you're working cross-functionally, throughout those companies and organizations that you're going to be joining. So you always want to, we'll say, like, practice more of like in the environment that you're going to play in, as well as then trying to understand, obviously, how the global economy is going to continue to evolve, and who are going to be the customers of those different products that you're going to be working on, you know, in your future career. So diversity is really important for many different reasons, just beyond even that cohort that you're going to join. So that's what I was thinking about as you all were talking.
Right. Okay. That's really neat that you guys have that. Aligning work and personal values is definitely becoming more important for fit at online MBA programs. Can you give some advice to applicants about how to choose the program that's right for them to help align their personal and professional goals? Also, maybe some key things they can think about as they're trying to determine which program they should apply for. JR, do you want to take that question?
Sure. So I think this is obviously like a very relevant question. And I will say, probably for online programs, the research that you need to do to find your right fit is probably higher than traditional MBA programs, because a lot of traditional MBA programs have a lot of things that are very similar. And online programs, everybody has made those different choices, you know, even the 3 programs here, right? Like everybody has I would say actually like a fairly different program of how you offer things. So I do think that the best thing that the candidates can do, make that reflection list, think what's most important to you. And maybe that could be, right, like we look at the curriculum side. Do you just really need that business acumen? How specific or how many electives would you need to tailor your curriculum? You know, what are some of those things that are important to you? So checking that with each program, attending those info sessions, talking to the missions team members, I think are going to be really key for this type of, you know, part of that evaluation. Now I also know, right, like with different online MBA programs, there's the difference in what kind of events that they offer. So like, are you going to be able to interact with their students a lot? Are you going to be able to go to events with other prospective students to really kind of understand a little bit more of, you know, who your classmates may be? So I think that, you know, while these candidates need a more flexible MBA, the amount of research that they need to do to ensure that each program that they're looking at can really meet what they're looking for, I think is a little bit higher. So the best way to do research, though, again, I'll just reiterate this one last time. Having that list and that reflection of what's most important to you and what you really need to have in your program to develop into that professional that you want to be post-MBA is going to be key, because as you interact with all these programs, they're going to give you all this information. And if you just keep on taking more and more information in and you don't have that checkpoint back to like what's most important to you, it's going to be really hard to start comparing some of those programs later in the process.
That's really solid advice. I can see how trying to be focused is really important in this process. Erin, how about you? Can you talk about this?
Sure. I think I would echo a lot of what JR said. I think you'll find as you're starting your application process, a lot of the schools that you're going to apply to want to know what your short-term and long-term career goals are. So I think starting your search by having that really clearly defined in your mind is going to make that search a lot easier, because then you're able to sort of parse out, well, are these services from this school going to help me get there? Or is that curriculum really going to prepare me to achieve those goals? I think is really key to sort of guiding your search. And then another piece of advice that I always give students is just talk to the admissions staff. Obviously, I think we recommend that students, join events, browse our website and things like that. But after you've done that, a quick 15-minute conversation will provide you with so much more clarity than you could possibly imagine, versus, spending hours scouring websites. Obviously, it sometimes can be information overload, right? Especially as you're comparing programs, it can feel a little bit overwhelming, and just talking to a person can sometimes alleviate a lot of those concerns or anxieties when it comes to understanding a program to its fullest. We will be honest with you, right, about what we do and don't offer. Especially at Questrom, things are a little bit different maybe from some other online programs. And we want to make sure that if you're going to join our program, that it truly is going to be a good fit for you, and that it is going to align with those goals that you have. I have definitely directed students elsewhere before because it's not a good fit sometimes. And we want to make sure that people are coming into this program able to succeed and achieve those goals. And then the other thing I would say is talk to admissions staff, but talk to current students as well. At Questrom, we have over 100 different current student ambassadors who are ready and willing to speak with prospective students to share their experience. I think that's really key, especially in a global MBA like ours. We have some students studying across the world who have a 12, 13, 14-hour time difference. And I think it's important to take those kind of things into consideration. Talking to current students who live in your time zone or in a similar time zone to, talk through the reality of maybe being online for a live session at 3 in-the-morning, and that kind of toll that maybe takes. Or talking to students who work in your industry and understanding what are those outcomes. Our students, 70% of them say that they can directly attribute the online MBA program to either a promotion or a pay raise. But hearing it directly from the horse's mouth, I think, is really important as well. And just being able to get that firsthand perspective of what is a week in the life of an OMBA student at Questrom really like. So definitely looking into those resources at each school and seeing if you have the opportunity to just set up a virtual coffee chat with a current student, because that will, I truly think, give you the best insight into what the program is like and what it can offer you.
Right. Yeah, I love that idea of student ambassadors. It could be a really useful tool. Sarah, can you share some thoughts?
Yeah. So that was actually going to be my kind of tip. I would say, the best thing to do is to connect with a current or alumni student. Right, kind of what Erin was saying, right? It's the best way to kind of learn about what it's like being in the program or seeing what happened after the program. At least for our admissions team, right? We repeat what we hear from students, right? We always want it to be, the real experience. We don't just make up the Ross experience, right? But hearing it actually directly from these students is really important. I think that because our MBA is so flexible and students can do it in different ways, or if they really want to be active in clubs or institutes or conferences, things like that, everyone does it a little bit different to be able to fit their life. And hearing from those students is really important. Looking to see how those students talk about kind of the culture of the program, or talking about the different core classes or the interactions with faculty. Once people kind of know what's important to them in an MBA, talking with those students and seeing if they're using those words or using the type of, kind of talking about the type of experience that they want, that's really important. I also would say, kind of talking right with an MBA, right? I would say just about 100% of people they're doing it for a new job or for growth, right? So I think speaking with kind of career development staff, office staff, is really important to kind of say, hey, this is what I'm kind of thinking. Have you seen this before? Can you do this with this degree? Is this kind of focused towards this kind of career switch? And then also just kind of in general, it seems pretty simple, but just going on LinkedIn and looking at, who are Ross alums or different school alums, seeing where they've been or seeing what kind of positions that they got after a degree, right? Again, seeing is, I'm looking at make this kind of switch. Can I do this with this degree? Is this the right fit? Is this the right school to kind of get me with that help for kind of that transition that they may be looking to make?
Yeah. I like the LinkedIn advice, right? Seeing where people go in years to come. Yeah, that's helpful. On that note, where do you kind of see online MBA outcomes and employment trends as classes graduate in the years to come? And what of that are there things that prospective students should consider on that front as they make these decisions?
Yeah, sure.
Really?
So I would say, like with our online students, we are seeing, the pivot or the complete career switch, even within our online format. So obviously we see big pivots in our full-time program and our weekend program, but we're seeing that in the online as well. We're seeing that our students are, really thinking about, one, like the length of the online program, right? People need to think, do I want to shorten it a little bit? Do I want to lengthen it because I want to use that MBA, use that network, use all the resources at the specific time that they really need to within their career? So I think when students really think about when they're looking to do their MBA, online, but just also in general, they really need to think about the timing of it. For Ross, right, it's the network for life, but all of those resources, and all of that really being involved within that community, is it's biggest when they're in the program. Obviously, after the program, the network of Ross and the University of Michigan is huge, and there's a lot of different resources. But again, knowing, when is it the right time within the career or that next career switch, I think is really important, because at Ross, the average work experience is around 8 to 9 years. Because I would say, when people are looking to get an MBA maybe 2 years out, we don't have that often, because that they're still kind of figuring out the business world. They're still kind of figuring out what they want to do. So waiting a little bit further into their career. So again, like I said, they can really leverage that MBA, I think is really important when looking at degrees.
Okay, great. JR, do you want to tackle that question as well?
Absolutely. So I agree that I think, if you do a quick history lesson here, 5 to 10 years ago, if you were in a part-time or online program, a pivot was very rare. That is something that I think students are looking for and want out of their degree opportunities. And essentially, how are you going to work with the students on that? A lot of times, when you join a full-time program, you start your career search immediately or even before the start of the program. But I think that's a little different in the part-time. Usually you start, at least with us, after year one, because you need to have enough, we'll say like MBA expertise, experience, coursework, really to be able to kind of start to talk and walk in that way. Because most of the time you're going through experience hiring. As I said before, we have one set of career coaches that also do our corporate engagement. So if you're interested in the consulting career, whether you're already in there or you're trying to make a pivot, the same coaches that are working with other candidates in our other programs, as well as making those specific inroads to those consulting firms, are the coaches that are going to be working with you. So they can really set up what is that development plan that you need to be ready for. What is that timeline on these career searches that you started to articulate and want to go after? And then how do you navigate that with having that personal coach really be able to kind of work with you throughout that process? I know for us in particular, our career numbers out of our online program are really strong. We have 90% of our class that have gotten a new job or career promotion. The average salary is almost $160,000 out of our program. We're really proud of that, because we're essentially working with our students day to day and giving them the support they need to make that transition or that pivot that they're looking to make.
Great. And Erin?
Yeah, of course. So for the online MBA, as I mentioned, it's going to be a little different at Questrom just because of the nature of our sort of student population and class profile. I would say 98% of students in our program are working full-time while they do it, just because it tends to trend a little bit more experienced for our students. So what students often use our program for is to kind of continue moving up that ladder that they're already on. It doesn't mean that an industry pivot isn't possible in doing our program. It's just in terms of what's more popular. We tend to see people who are fairly well established in their careers already, who are maybe looking to move up from the manager level, say, to a director, VP, or even C-suite level. So they're looking to skill up in those sort of key areas of business to remain competitive in the market, and to sort of, again, expand that network, which I think is a very key part of considering. I think the big term is ROI, right? What are you going to get out of your return on, or what is the return on investment of both your money and your time? At Questrom, I think it's a very good ROI. We are a $25,000 program. You do not have to give up your day job while you're doing it. So you're not losing that time, as you might say in a full-time MBA program where you're not working. You are able to directly implement what you're learning as soon as you learn it, because you're still working. You're able to finish that program in as little as 2 years, which is basically the pace of a full-time program, but at a part-time pace. And you're gaining access to not only the online MBA alumni community, but the Questrom alumni community of over 53,000 students, the BU alumni community of almost 350,000 students. And again, just for the OMBA community, we have students in over 75 different countries, or alums specifically in 75 different countries and in almost all 50 states. So I think it's important to consider, again, not just what you're going to get while you're in the program, those networking opportunities, skills you're going to gain, but also what you're going to get after the fact. Who are you going to be able to contact? Who are you going to be able to reach out to? Where are you going to be able to go in your career and beyond? So I think the ROI of your financial investment is really important to consider, as well as your time. And the one thing I would note on time as well is, are you going to be able to commit that time? I think it's important to, ask admission staff, ask current students, for the time that you're putting in, are you going to be getting out of it what you're looking for? Especially because it can be demanding. Although our program is a part-time program, we tell students to anticipate about 15 to 20 hours of work per week all in. And we don't want students running themselves into the ground, right? Balancing life and school and a full-time job is a lot. But I think what we tend to see is that our alumni find that the rewards and the return on investment are well worth that investment. So I think it's just important to kind of consider all those things. What kind of money are you putting into this? What is the time commitment? What's realistic for you? And what are you sort of going to get out of it in terms of the professional development, in terms of the financial and professional growth, and in terms of the network that you'll build.
Great, all good points. Okay, we have time for a few viewer questions. Sarah, would you like to answer this question from our viewer? Do you have any advice for part-time applicants and how they might want to tell their story differently in their application?
Yeah, so I would say just kind of in general with the application, do not write what you think we want to hear, write what's true to you, right? People can go online and see prompts or see examples. That's not true to you. So I would say, at least within our essays, we have one essay that talks about the short-term goal, which will obviously be work focused. But then the other two kind of short prompts for us, those do not have to be work focused, right? We want to hear about you. Again, when we talk about, previously the diversity of the class, it's not only diversity, within industry or function. We want different backgrounds, different education, different life experiences. So being able to really in those essays write what's true to you, I think really sets people apart. Again, when people write, what they think we want to hear, we can see that, and then we go, well, we don't really know this person. So definitely within those essays, I think that's where they can differentiate themselves.
Okay, great. JR, tell me a little bit about information about any international opportunities or global perspectives that are integrated into the curriculum.
Yeah, so for our program, I would say there's not as many international opportunities for online students because of the flexibility. We do have travel opportunities that are in our program. Those are usually around our access weekends. So for our program, we're a little bit different in that we have at least 8 in-person immersions as part of the curriculum. To our knowledge, that's usually on the high end in comparison to other programs. We will have opportunities where our students are going to not just come to Pittsburgh, but go to other locations. And that's going to be usually later in the curriculum, because then that gives them an opportunity to really interact with other companies and businesses and do more engaged learning. But for us, most of those are going to be on the domestic side.
Okay, great. And Erin, I guess I'll give you the last question. What types of financial aid or scholarships are available for online MBA students?
Yeah, so for the online MBA at Questrom, just due to the competitive price point of the program, we do not have any internal or institutional scholarships available for online MBA students. However, we do have a list of recommended private and external scholarships that students are eligible to apply for. And then students who are eligible, of course, can apply for FAFSA, for federal aid, and then there are sort of private grants or loans as well. We have a dedicated in-house financial aid team. They work in the exact same office as we do. So it's a very sort of nice streamlined process when it comes to financing your education. Obviously, that goes hand in hand with being admitted to a program and applying to a program. We have to make sure, right, that is a financial feasibility for you. So our director of financial aid and residential MBA programs is fantastic. He works with all of our students and is able to sort of provide a dedicated one-on-one sort of counsel to make sure that any sort of anxiety about making it a financial reality is alleviated. So yeah, that's sort of what financial aid looks like at Questrom. I would say definitely look into it program by program, as it does differ quite substantially. But yeah.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today and sharing your, giving your valuable advice, information about your online MBA programs is much appreciated. And I'm sure prospective students will get a lot out of hearing what you had to say. So thank you again for joining us with this online MBA event. I'm Allison Damast from Poets and Quants. And be sure to watch the remaining panel sessions throughout the day to hear from other top business schools and hear also some student perspectives. You can also watch more videos on Poets and Quants YouTube channel. And as always, be sure to go to poetsandquants.com for other informative articles and videos. And no matter where you are in your MBA journey, you'll be able to find things that will help you. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.